Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are diving deep into, well, a really fundamental question, I think, that sits right at the heart of modern advertising.
Which is?
What truly makes an ad work? We spend so much time, so much energy obsessing over the perfect creative, the clever headline, the amazing visual.
Right, the execution.
Exactly. But what if something else, something we often overlook, is actually maybe even more important?
That's precisely the territory we're exploring today. For years, the focus has been almost entirely on the message, hasn't it? Crafting that, brilliant piece of communication.
Hmm.
But the reality is that message doesn't just float in space. It appears somewhere. And this deep dive, it's all about challenging that assumption that where an ad appears is, well, just background noise.
Just the wallpaper.
Yeah. What if that environment, the feeling it creates in someone, fundamentally changes how your audience perceives?
Yeah.
Everything. The ad itself, the brand behind it.
Precisely. And our guide for this exploration, our source material, is a really significant new research study. It's called Positivity Performs. Ah, yes, the Magnea and Pinterest collaboration.
That's the one. Megan A., the media intelligence company, and Pinterest. They teamed up and set out to scientifically measure the impact, the real impact, of the media environment on advertising effectiveness.
So not just guessing, but measuring.
Measuring. We're going to unpack exactly what they did, what they found, and I think most importantly, what it means for you, whether you're, building a brand, planning campaigns, or frankly, just curious about how influence works.
Okay, so let's maybe start with the how. Just how rigorous was this study? Because, effectiveness research can be a bit hit or miss sometimes.
Yeah, fair point. This wasn't, like you said, just a simple click-through rate check or a basic survey asking, did you like this ad? Not at all.
So what do they do?
They pulled out the big guns. Seriously.
Yeah.
We're talking about biometric response data.
Okay, so measuring actual physiological reactions, things people aren't even consciously controlling.
Exactly. Things like heart rate variability, skin conductance, the subconscious stuff. Plus, they used eye tracking to see where people actually looked.
Precisely where their attention went, and crucially, for how long. And they even went a step further and incorporated brainwave measurement, EEG.
Wow. Okay, so they're getting into cognitive processing, emotional engagement on a neurological level.
That's the idea. They wanted to understand those deep, non-stated, often subconscious reactions people have when they encounter an ad in a specific context.
Right, because what people say they feel or think isn't always the full picture.
Not even close sometimes. And crucially, they didn't stop there with just the fancy tech. They connected all this deep psychological and physiological data back to actual measurable campaign performance metrics.
Like what?
Things that really matter to marketers: purchase intent, brand favorability, brand preference, the stuff that moves the needle.
Okay, so that's the crucial link then, connecting the how people feel deep down physiologically to the what people actually do or intend to do.
Exactly. And the scale here is pretty impressive, too. This wasn't a small lab experiment. They involved over 4,300 participants and tested across 10 different real-world ad campaigns, various brands, various sectors. So it gives the findings real weight, real applicability.
Absolutely. That's not based on a tiny sample or some hypothetical scenario.
Yeah.
That sounds like robust, multifaceted research. You've got the depth from the biometrics and EEG,
Yeah.
and the breadth from the sample size and campaign variety.
For sure. So let's get to it. What did all this sophisticated measurement actually reveal? What's the big headline finding? Because it's pretty powerful.
Lay it on us.
They took the exact same ad,
Okay.
identical creative, served it to the exact same audience, so same targeting parameters.
Right, controlling the variables.
Exactly. But here's the twist. They showed it in two different contexts. One was sort of a standard, maybe less positive online environment. Think, maybe a cluttered news feed or something potentially stressful.
Okay, and the other?
The other was an uplifting, positive media environment, a space designed to make people feel good, inspired, relaxed, like Pinterest, which was part of the study.
Got it. So same ad, same people, different vibe for the location.
Perfect summary. And the difference in the outcomes. Honestly, it was staggering.
How staggering.
Well, get this. The same ad, when seen in that uplifting media environment, resulted in a 35% higher purchase intent, plus 35%.
Wait, seriously? Just from changing the environment?
Just from changing the environment. Think about the efficiency gain there. A 35% lift,
Yeah.
not by tweaking the ad, not by spending more on creative, just by placing it somewhere more
I think
positive.
that's an incredible return on context, as you put
Yeah.
it. That's huge.
Huge. But it wasn't just about driving that immediate action, that purchase intent. The impact on how people felt about the brand itself was just as significant, maybe even more so long term.
Okay, tell me about the brand metrics.
Oh, they saw massive jumps. They recorded, get ready for this, a 49% increase in brand favorability. People liked the brand almost 50% more,
Just because of where they saw the ad.
just because of where they saw the ad. And a 44% increase in brand preference, meaning they were significantly more likely to say they'd choose that brand over a competitor.
Wow. So this isn't just about someone saying, okay, I might click that. This is fundamentally shifting how they feel about the brand.
Yeah.
Like, I actually like this brand more now, and yeah, I'd probably pick it.
Exactly. It gets right to the core of brand building, doesn't it? And maybe the stat that really drove it home for me,
Go on.
that same ad. Remember, identical creative was rated 2 times more trustworthy,
Double the trust.
double the trust, and 1.5 times more likable, purely based on the environment it appeared in.
Trust and likability. I mean, those are absolute cornerstones of brand equity.
Mm.
And they were doubled or significantly increased just by context.
It just completely reframes how you have to think about media placement, doesn't it? It's not just about reaching eyeballs anymore. It's about reaching eyeballs in the right emotional state.
Yet the environment isn't passive. It's not just a container. It's an active participant. It's shaping how the message lands, how the brand feels.
So the big takeaway here, the core finding, seems pretty undeniable. Context changes perception. Where your ad shows up isn't just logistics, it's a critical factor in how your audience feels about you. It's strategic.
Which, okay, naturally leads to the next question. Why?
Yeah.
What is it about a positive environment that actually unlocks this kind of performance? What's the science or the psychology going on under the hood?
Yeah, and this is where that deeper data, the biometrics, the eye tracking really comes into play and gives us some crucial clues.
Okay.
The study suggests that when people are in a relaxed state or entertained or maybe feeling inspired, the kind of positive states cultivated by these uplifting online environments, they are simply more emotionally receptive. Their guard is down, essentially. Their cognitive defenses are lower. They're just more open to receiving information, and that includes advertising messages.
Okay, that makes intuitive sense. If you're feeling good, you're less likely to be critical or dismissive.
Exactly. And the eye tracking data actually confirmed this openness. They found people looked 15% longer at the ads when those ads were placed in positive environments.
Longer dwell time. So they weren't just scrolling past as quickly. They were genuinely paying more attention.
Paying more attention. And critically, that attention wasn't just passive viewing. It wasn't just eyes on screen.
What else was happening?
The biometric sensors, remember those? They showed 20% more emotional engagement with the ads in those positive contexts.
20% more. So people weren't just seeing the ad for longer, they were actually feeling more while looking at it, reacting to it on an emotional level.
Precisely. They were more connected to it emotionally. And this whole receptive, positive state, it fundamentally changes how the ad itself feels to the viewer.
How so?
Well, the research found that in these uplifting spaces, the ads were perceived as less intrusive, less salesy,
Okay. Less like an unwelcome interruption.
Exactly. They felt more trustworthy, which echoes that finding of double the trust, and they seemed more aligned with the brand's overall values. It felt more like the brand belonged there, it was part of the positive experience, rather than something jarring or out of place.
That's interesting. It's like the positive glow of the environment rubs off on the ad itself.
It really seems to. And there's a psychological principle that likely underpins a lot of this. It's called cognitive fluency.
Cognitive fluency. Okay, break that down.
It's basically the idea that things that are easier for our brains to process, things that feel smooth, effortless, or generally perceived more positively. We like things that are easy to think about.
Okay.
And things associated with positive feelings also tend to be processed more easily. So a positive emotional state induced by the environment creates this smooth path. It makes the advertising message easier for the brain to handle.
So if I'm feeling good, relaxed, inspired, the ad message requires less mental effort to process.
That's the theory. It flows in more easily, it's absorbed faster, feels maybe more intuitive or trustworthy, and importantly, it's more likely to stick in your long-term memory.
Right. It's like you're paving a mental superhighway for your brand message right into the consumer's mind just by choosing the right location.
Yeah.
Less friction.
Exactly. Less friction, more impact. Now, shifting gears slightly, one of the most, I think, surprising findings from this study, the one that really challenges conventional advertising wisdom, is how the impact of this environment positivity stacked up against the impact of the creative execution itself.
Ah, okay. This is where it gets really interesting. Because normally creative is king, right?
That's the mantra. But this study found that for certain key brand metrics, the positivity of the environment actually outperformed the creative execution.
Outperformed. In driving what exactly?
In driving metrics like brand preference, brand trust, and even aspects of purchase intent, the environment had a stronger relative impact than variations in the creative itself, according to their analysis. Whoa. Let's just pause on that for a second. Think about the resources, the time, the money, the sheer effort we pour into crafting brilliant breakthrough creative.
Millions, often. Hiring the best agencies, top directors, endless rounds of feedback,
Yeah.
all to get that message just right.
Right. And this research suggests that even that perfectly crafted, highly creative, award-worthy ad, if it lands in a negative space, a hostile environment, a chaotic online context that makes people feel stressed or angry or overwhelmed, it might actually underperform compared to the exact same ad placed in a space that just makes people feel good, inspired, relaxed, calm.
So the context could potentially negate some of the brilliance of the creative, or conversely, amplify it significantly.
Precisely. It's a fundamental challenge to that established hierarchy, where creative is assumed to be the dominant factor. It implies that media placement isn't just a delivery truck for the creative message.
It's more like a performance multiplier, or potentially a performance detractor.
That's a great way to put it. A brilliant ad in a toxic environment. It's like, I don't know, planting a beautiful flower in poisoned soil. It just won't thrive as well.
That really raises a critical question for anyone involved in media planning or buying today, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Are you just buying reach? Are you just buying impressions based on demographics? This study strongly suggests you are implicitly, whether you realize it or not, buying an emotional state for your audience at the moment they encounter your brand.
The vibe of the platform, as the kids might say, isn't just fluff. It's a crucial and apparently measurable performance driver.
Exactly. So, okay. If the science is compelling, if the data shows these significant uplifts, if positivity genuinely performs and can even, in some ways, outweigh creative brilliance, what should brands and marketers actually do about it? How do we translate this into action?
Well, thankfully, the Positivity Performs report doesn't just drop the bombshell findings. It also offers some clear, actionable takeaways. They outline 5 key steps.
Okay, let's walk through them. What's number 1?
First up, audit your media mix. Sounds basic, but do it with this new lens. Take a really critical look at where your ads are currently running.
Go beyond just the usual metrics like reach and frequency.
Exactly. Go beyond just demographic targeting and ask the hard questions. What is the emotional state of the audience likely to be when they are on this platform or viewing this content? Are these environments generally positive? Are they trusted? Do they feel uplifting?
And then actively seek out and invest more in those media environments that align with the positive perception you actually want for your brand.
Right. Make it a conscious choice. Second, they recommend integrating positivity as a key performance indicator, a KPI.
Making it measurable.
Yes. There shouldn't just be a sort of qualitative, nice-to-have feeling. Add some kind of score for the emotional environment, or use reliable proxies for it, and make it a measurable metric right there in your media planning process.
To track it, analyze it, optimize for it, just like you would for reach or conversion rate or cost per click.
Precisely. That shifts it from being an afterthought to being a core strategic imperative. Number 3.
Lean into contextual targeting. This builds on the audit. Go beyond just broad audience segments.
Right.
Prioritize placing your ads specifically within content streams that are inherently uplifting, inspiring, or positive in nature.
So if someone is actively searching for positive ideas or looking at inspirational content, that's a prime moment.
That's a high potential moment, exactly. Their mindset is already aligned with positivity, making them potentially more receptive, according to this research.
Makes sense. Which leads directly to the 4th point.
Yeah.
Rethink your ROI metrics. Well, while clicks, conversions, maybe immediate sales, those are important and relatively easy to measure, right?
Sure, the standard stuff.
But they don't capture the full picture of this positivity effect. The recommendation is to look beyond just those immediate direct actions. Try to track the deeper impacts too.
Like what kind of deeper impacts?
Like shifts in emotional response to your ad over time, increases in brand favorability scores, improvements in brand preference, especially when you can correlate those shifts with exposure in these positive environments. It requires maybe more sophisticated measurement, but it captures the brand building value.
Right, capturing the feeling metrics alongside the doing metrics,
Yep.
okay? And the fifth step.
The fifth one is perhaps the simplest on the surface, but maybe the most foundational. Choose partners with purpose,
Meaning?
meaning actively select platforms and media partners that are fundamentally designed and managed to foster positivity, inspiration, and healthy interactions among their users.
So, platforms that intentionally cultivate that positive environment.
Exactly. The report specifically calls out Pinterest as an example here, a platform inherently built around positive discovery, planning, inspiration, and the study's findings certainly seem to reflect the benefits of that inherent design. It's about aligning with platforms whose very structure supports this positive context.
Okay, so audit, KPI, contextual targeting, rethink ROI, choose partners. That's a pretty clear roadmap.
It really is. And putting these 5 steps together, it gives you a framework for, well, what they call performance planning for 2025.
Yeah.
It's about shifting the focus towards how people feel when they interact with your brand online, not just where they happen to be physically or digitally.
And crucially, this isn't just theoretical. The report included real-world results from the campaigns that were part of the study, providing pretty compelling evidence that this approach works in practice.
Yeah, they saw significant measurable ROI uplift. Those campaigns that participated simply by applying these principles, often just by shifting existing creative into more positive placements.
What kind of uplift are we talking?
They saw up to a 24% ROI
Wait,
uplift,
24%, just from smarter placement.
up to 24%. Think about that impact. A nearly quarter increase in return on investment, achieved simply by shifting the same exact creative assets to more positive platforms and contexts.
That's the kicker, isn't it? This didn't require commissioning whole new ad campaigns or developing completely different messaging strategies or pouring more money into production budgets.
Nope, it really underscores the point we were discussing. The uplift came primarily from smarter placement, from understanding the power of context, not necessarily from changing the message itself or spending more dollars on making the ad.
It just highlights the sort of latent potential that's unlocked when your carefully crafted message meets your intended audience in the right emotional state, the right frame of mind.
It proves pretty definitively, I'd say, that focusing on positivity in media placement isn't just fluff. It's not just a nice-to-have for brand image.
It's a performance.
It is genuine fuel for performance. It directly impacts your bottom line by making your existing creative assets work harder and making your overall media spend more efficient.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to consider.
Go for it.
As you think about your own brand or the campaigns you work on, are the environments you're choosing truly supporting your objectives? Are they aligning with the values you want to project?
More. And this is the challenging part. Could you be inadvertently sacrificing trust, sacrificing preference, and ultimately sacrificing ROI just for the sake of raw reach? Just for hitting impression numbers in spaces that might actually be detrimental to how your brand is ultimately perceived?
It's a tough question, but a necessary one. In today's media landscape, where attention is so fragmented, so incredibly valuable, this study makes it pretty clear. Choosing positive environments isn't just a soft, fuzzy, strategic consideration.
No, it's a critical business decision. It has measurable financial outcomes. It impacts how likable your brand is, how trustworthy it's seen to be, and ultimately, how well your advertising actually performs in the real world.
Positivity performs. The title says it all.
Indeed. And look, if you're keen to get into the nitty-gritty, see all the charts, understand the full methodology, you can download the complete Positivity Performs report. It's available directly from the Magenet website.
Definitely worth a read if this topic resonates. And on a related note, if these insights do resonate and you're perhaps thinking about how to practically apply this principle, how to harness positivity to make your own brand films or campaign creative work harder.
How to turn these principles into tangible performance for your brand.
Exactly. Then we'd certainly encourage you to reach out to the folks at Studio 86. They specialize in exactly this kind of thing, creating content that connects emotionally and performs effectively. They'd absolutely welcome the chance to explore the possibilities with you.
A great resource for putting positivity into practice.
For sure. Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.